Right now, your daily choices are shaping the person you'll become tomorrow. Some people work hard but never get ahead because they think like workers, focusing on tasks instead of strategy. In this video, you'll discover how to shift your mindset to think like a leader, not a worker. You'll learn practical ways to make decisions with clarity, plan for long-term results, protect your energy, and build systems that work for you. Each principle is designed to be actionable, so you can start applying it immediately and see real changes in your productivity, influence, and confidence. By the end, you'll understand how to focus on what truly matters, anticipate challenges before they happen, and take control of your growth. Stick around for the full guide to transforming your thinking, and make sure to subscribe for more strategies that help you lead your life with purpose. Number 1. Choose clarity over emotional reactions. When the phone buzzes with bad news, when a colleague interrupts a calm morning with criticism, when a plan falls apart and the room seems to tilt, the first response is almost always emotional. The chest tightens, the throat goes dry, the mind launches into stories. Why this happened, who is to blame, what this means for the future. Emotions are fast and persuasive. They demand attention. A leader's work is not to deny emotion, but to see it clearly and decide from there. Clarity means recognizing the feeling, naming it, and separating the raw sensation from the story it wants to build. This separation is the practice that turns reaction into response. Start by training the simplest tool, the pause. The pause is not avoidance. The pause is an active choice that buys space. 3 steady breaths, a half-minute quiet, a step away from the screen. In that space, the pulse slows. The hormones have a fraction of time to settle, and the mind can switch from headline thinking to calm assessment. Practically, create a micro-routine. When something hits hard, inhale for 4 counts, hold for 1, exhale for 4, count silently if needed. Physical breath anchors attention to the present moment and reduces the body's immediate reactivity. Over time, this small habit becomes the signal the brain uses to switch from emotional hijacked to considered action. Naming the emotion is the next essential step. Instead of "this is terrible," say "this is anger," or "this is disappointment." The act of labeling pulls the experience into language and weakens its automatic power. It is a simple neurological trick. When the brain converts a diffuse feeling into a word, parts of the cortex engage and the emotional center calms. Keep a short list of precise words: annoyed, ashamed, worried, frustrated, afraid, and train yourself to use them. The goal is not to drown in labels, but to make your internal state intelligible so decisions aren't hostage to blind impulses. Once the emotion is named, split the scene into 2 columns in your mind: facts and story. Facts are observable and verifiable. What was said, what happened, the timeline. Stories are the assumptions and interpretations that follow. They don't respect me. This will ruin the project. I'm a failure. Facts can be tested and corrected. Stories are often biased, exaggerated, or outright false. A leader leans on the facts. Practice this by writing 1-sentence facts and 1-sentence stories when an incident shakes you. Then ask, which of these can be proven? Which need more information? This method reduces the fog that emotion produces and reintroduces evidence into decision-making. Create simple decision rules ahead of time so emotion has less influence when pressure mounts. Rules convert values into action without endless deliberation. For example, if a team misses a deadline by less than 48 hours, respond with a coaching conversation rather than immediate punishment. If a client threatens to leave, gather the data for 24 hours before making concessions. These rules need not be complex. They are guardrails. They protect energy and allow you to be decisive without chasing every emotional spike. Test rules in lower stakes situations and refine them. When a new crisis arrives, the brain can consult the rulebook rather than the loudest feeling. Shift the language from blame to curiosity. The impulse to blame is immediate because it promises clarity and control, but it often closes doors. Curiosity opens them. Ask neutral, specific questions. What happened? What was intended? What constraints existed? What evidence supports X? Replace "why did they screw up?" with "what prevented the work from going as planned?" That tiny change alters tone, reduces defensiveness, and surfaces practical improvements. Leaders who habitually choose curiosity, collect information instead of ammunition, design the environment to reduce reactive triggers. If the inbox is a battlefield, set scheduled times to check messages and use filters for urgent senders. If certain meetings always spark frustration, examine the meeting structure, agenda, time box topics, clear roles, remove low-value tasks that act as friction points, and drain attention. Leaders think in systems. They change the environment so routine triggers no longer hijack judgment. This is practical. Create a morning routine that limits exposure to potentially upsetting inputs before the brain has warmed up, or designate a corner of the day for complex thinking when decision quality is highest. Practice tiny exposures to discomfort so the body learns that tension does not require immediate action. Stoics called this voluntary discomfort. Modern leaders can use it as training. Skip perfect coffee, take a cold shower, work in a slightly less comfortable chair for an hour. These micro practices teach the nervous system that mild stress is survivable and temporary. When a real emotional storm arrives, it will feel less catastrophic because the body remembers previous recoveries. The result is steadier decisions. Use a short pre-mortem instead of a panic spiral. When a negative event occurs, resist the urge to imagine the worst. Instead, ask, what could cause this outcome? What small indicators would show danger early? What can be done now to reduce harm? This reframes anxious projection into constructive foresight. A pre-mortem focuses attention on actionable signals and priorities, converting nebulous fear into a checklist of responses. Make time weekly for reflection with a simple template. What went well, what didn't, and what did I feel strongly about? This regular check-in develops emotional literacy and strategic clarity. Over weeks, patterns appear, recurring triggers, persistent assumptions, certain times of day when patience runs low. Awareness alone creates options. If meetings at 3 p.m. consistently drain energy, block that time for solo work. If certain phrases or people ignite anger, plan a response script. These small adjustments compound. Train the team in the same practices. Clarity at the top only scales if others learn to pause, name, and separate facts from story. Start meetings with a short norm. When someone speaks emotionally, the group ground rules allow a 30-second pause, a label, and a facts check. Encourage transparency about feelings with limits. Feelings may be voiced, but decisions will be evidence-based. This builds a culture that values calm assessment and makes sound decisions the norm rather than the exception. When action is necessary and the emotions remain present, convert the feeling into a fuel. Anger can be focused into boundary setting rather than lashing out. Anxiety can be channeled into a checklist of contingencies. Use energy, not drama. Choose the smallest effective step, a fact-gathering conversation, a timeline clarification, an apology where owed, a reprioritization. The smallest appropriate action often breaks the cycle of reactivity and restores motion. The final practice is a daily modest discipline, an evening inventory of what specifically tested clarity that day and how it was handled. Write one paragraph. What happened? How did the body react? What thought patterns appeared, and what was the outcome of the response? This habit builds pattern recognition. Over time, responses that once felt automatic become chosen. That is the essence of leadership thinking, not suppression of feeling, but mastery of the moment it appears. The immediate practical checklist to use today. When triggered, pause and breathe for at least 3 full cycles. 2. Name the emotion in 1 word. 3. Write the observable facts in 1 or 2 sentences. 4. Identify the story or assumption in 1 sentence. 5. Consult a pre-made decision rule or apply 1 simple rule now. 6. Choose 1 small, concrete next step and do it within 30 minutes. 7. Log the event in an end-of-day reflection note. The path from reactive to clear is not instant. There will be days of slipping back, sudden losses, public criticisms, personal fatigue. Stoic discipline does not promise absence of pain. It teaches how to stand steady inside it. Clarity is not a fixed state. It is a repeated practice. Every pause, every label, and every small rule rebuilds neural pathways that favor composed action over impulsive reaction. Imagine the sound of your breath replacing the clamor of reactive thoughts, the feeling of shoulders dropping a fraction, the desk light steadier, because the mind is steadier. Picture a conversation where anger arrives, is recognized, and then becomes information rather than an explosion. Picture a team meeting where the first impulse is not to blame, but to map facts and options. These are not distant ideals, they are choices made minute by minute. Choose clarity over emotional reaction, and the space you create becomes a leadership advantage. Decisions will be more accurate, relationships will be less brittle, energy will be preserved for the work that matters most. The practice is simple, but its effect compounds in ways that transform a life. Start now with the breath, the label, the fact, the rule, and the small step. Over time, clarity will do what anger and panic never could. It will deliver better outcomes and a steadier mind. Number 2, plan long-term before taking action. Action without foresight is like a river carving its own path, forceful but often destructive. Immediate pressures, urgent emails, small crises, and unexpected requests constantly demand attention, tempting you to respond without consideration. The worker reacts, the leader steps back. Thinking ahead is not procrastination. It is the deliberate act of mapping the terrain before moving, seeing beyond the immediate obstacle to the destination you want to reach. Planning long-term is the practice of aligning each choice with a vision, a principle, or an outcome that matters most, so that every action builds momentum rather than creating scattered energy. Begin by defining the horizon. This is not vague dreaming. It is specific clarity about where you want to be in 1 year, 5 years, or even a decade. Write it down in concrete terms: the projects completed, the relationships nurtured, the skills acquired, the impact made. When the destination is clear, the noise of daily urgency becomes manageable, because decisions can be measured against that standard. A leader does not chase every shiny object or react to every ping. They filter opportunities through a long-term lens. Every choice becomes a question: does this advance my goals or detract from them? Next, break the long-term vision into practical milestones. A goal of financial freedom becomes a plan for saving, investing, learning, and building multiple income streams. A goal of leading a high-performing team translates into developing leadership skills, hiring the right people, and creating systems that reinforce culture. Each milestone is small enough to tackle now, but strategic enough to move toward the bigger picture. Milestones are the bridge between vision and execution. Without them, long-term goals remain abstract, easily forgotten in the day-to-day scramble. Anticipate obstacles before they appear. A critical habit of long-term thinkers is mental rehearsal. Visualize potential setbacks, resistant team members, market downturns, personal fatigue, miscommunication, and prepare responses in advance. Planning includes not just the ideal path, but the alternatives, the detours, and the safety nets. This preemptive thinking reduces panic when problems inevitably arise. It transforms challenges into expected parts of the journey, rather than surprises that derail progress. Writing down these scenarios and solutions makes the mind more resilient and less likely to overreact when reality deviates from plan. Prioritize relentlessly. Time, energy, and focus are finite resources. A long-term thinker evaluates every task by its impact on overarching goals. Not all urgent matters are important meetings that fill calendars without moving critical projects forward. Distractions disguised as opportunities, or habitual low-value tasks, must be minimized or delegated. Leadership is about deciding what matters most and ruthlessly protecting that priority. Create a system where daily decisions are automatically filtered through strategic importance, so small, reactive tasks do not consume the bandwidth needed for meaningful work. Leverage compound progress. Small, consistent actions over months and years create exponential outcomes. Investing 1 hour daily in skill development produces a mastery that sudden effort cannot match. Saving a small percentage of income consistently grows into significant wealth. Building relationships steadily and intentionally creates trust and influence that no single action can manufacture. Long-term planning is not just mapping events. It is recognizing that consistent, deliberate effort compounds in ways that immediate gratification cannot replicate. Leaders see these patterns and design actions to benefit from them. Develop a decision framework that favors enduring results. When choices arise, ask, which option builds a foundation and which solves only the momentary problem? Quick fixes often provide temporary relief, but undermine the ultimate objective. Leaders distinguish between what feels urgent and what is truly essential. This perspective prevents energy from being wasted on reactive firefighting. Each decision should be a building block, not a patchwork fix. By consciously aligning decisions with long-term goals, momentum accumulates, and the path to vision becomes more direct and less turbulent. Track progress systematically. A plan without feedback is just a wish. Establish metrics that matter and review them regularly. This is not about obsessing over minor details, but observing whether your long-term actions are producing the intended trajectory. Adjustments are inevitable. Plans are not static. Reviewing progress allows course correction before small issues grow into major setbacks. A leader monitors the arc, not just the immediate point. Measurement provides insight, accountability, and reassurance that consistent, deliberate effort is paying off, even when immediate results feel slow. Invest in skills that scale. Short-term efficiency is often seductive, but long-term thinking prioritizes capabilities that multiply impact. Learning project management, emotional intelligence, strategic communication, or systems design enables not just individual execution, but the ability to leverage others and create structures that endure. Each skill is an investment in future effectiveness. Immediate labor can be replaced. Strategic skill is an asset that grows with use. Leaders allocate time to develop what cannot be outsourced or automated, ensuring every effort contributes to sustainable growth. Practice patience, discipline, and delayed gratification. Long-term planning requires resisting the impulse to act simply because action is available. It demands enduring discomfort, tolerating ambiguity, and delaying rewards in exchange for higher value outcomes. The ability to sit with tension, to maintain focus despite uncertainty, differentiates those who achieve lasting results from those who exhaust themselves on reactive labor. Leaders understand that every strategic choice often feels slower, quieter, or less satisfying than impulsive action. Yet the payoff is magnified over time. Visualize the ripple effect. Consider not just the immediate consequences of your actions, but how they influence the future. A single decision can accelerate or derail a project, impact reputation, shape relationships, and determine momentum. Long-term thinkers anticipate these layers and plan accordingly. They do not act in isolation. They understand interconnected outcomes and act with foresight. Each step is deliberate, measured, and considered in the larger narrative of personal and professional life. Leadership is built on seeing the system, not just the isolated node. Finally, commit to consistency. Vision and planning are meaningless without persistent application. Long-term thinking is not passive. It is disciplined. Daily engagement, review goals, adjust milestones, reflect on lessons, and repeat. Even small steps taken with unwavering focus accumulate. Consistency turns abstract plans into tangible reality. It transforms intention into results. Leaders embrace the grind, the routine, and the repeated application of effort, because they understand that mastery and achievement are not produced in bursts, but in the quiet, deliberate continuation of work, aligned with vision. Planning long-term before taking action is a commitment to yourself, your future, and the outcomes you truly value. It demands attention, foresight, and discipline, but the return is clarity, control, and compounding success. Each moment spent reacting without a plan is an opportunity lost, an energy leak, a moment that could have built momentum toward meaningful achievement. The leader sees beyond the immediate storm and navigates with steady purpose. With every thoughtful, deliberate step, the distance between current reality and desired outcome shortens, and life begins to bend toward intention. Number 3. Protect energy, not every task. Energy is the most valuable resource in any endeavor. Time is measurable, but energy determines the quality and effectiveness of every action. Most people operate under the illusion that every task deserves equal attention, that each email, meeting, or minor problem requires full mental, emotional, and physical investment. The truth is that not all tasks are created equal. Some demand creativity, focus, and leadership. Others can be delegated, postponed, or even ignored without consequence. Protecting energy is not laziness, it is strategy. Leaders recognize where energy produces the highest return and allocate it accordingly. Start by understanding personal rhythms. Energy fluctuates throughout the day, shaped by sleep, nutrition, emotional state, and cognitive load. There is a natural peak when focus is sharpest and clarity is strongest. Identifying these periods allows strategic alignment of critical work with optimal energy levels. Deep thinking, decision-making, and problem-solving should be reserved for these high-capacity windows. Routine, repetitive, or low-stakes tasks can occupy low-energy periods. Mapping energy across the day reveals where action is most potent and where conservation is necessary. Learn to differentiate between tasks that require presence and those that can be handled mechanically or by others. Not every meeting needs your input. Not every report requires your signature. Not every conversation demands emotional engagement. Identify the activities that directly influence long-term goals, key projects, and essential relationships. These are the tasks worth dedicating mental and emotional energy to. Everything else should be streamlined, automated, delegated, or delayed. Protecting energy means prioritizing quality over quantity, focusing on influence rather than activity. Develop a boundary framework that preserves mental bandwidth. Boundaries are not excuses, they are commitments to the work that matters most. Decline requests politely but firmly when they threaten to siphon attention from high-priority projects. Schedule dedicated periods for uninterrupted work, turning off notifications and minimizing distractions. A leader guards cognitive space because scattered attention erodes decision quality and problem-solving ability. Energy is finite. Distributing it to tasks of marginal importance diminishes effectiveness on the work that truly drives progress. Apply the principle of selective attention to communication. Email, chat, and social media bombardment can fragment focus. Not all messages demand immediate reading or response. Establish a triage system: urgent, important, and non-essential. Handle urgent items promptly. Schedule time for important tasks, and minimize energy spent on non-essential communications. Use batching techniques to process similar items together. This creates momentum while reducing cognitive switching costs. Energy conservation is as much about what you ignore as what you engage with. Learn the art of saying no without guilt. Many leaders fail because they commit to too much, overextending attention and resources. Saying no does not indicate weakness. It signals discernment and prioritization. Practice concise, respectful refusals and alternative suggestions when appropriate. By saying no strategically, energy is preserved for initiatives that matter most. Each avoided distraction frees capacity to solve complex problems, nurture key relationships, or innovate in areas that will yield meaningful results. Recognize that not all battles are worth fighting. Emotional energy is easily depleted by conflicts, criticism, or minor irritations. Leaders conserve vitality by assessing which issues merit engagement. Is the outcome meaningful? Is it a recurring pattern that requires intervention? Will it affect long-term goals? If the answer is no, disengage. Protecting energy often involves stepping back from arguments, choosing neutrality over unnecessary confrontation, and preserving composure. Every unnecessary conflict drained of attention is energy diverted from tasks that produce value. Leverage systems to reduce repetitive energy drains, standardizing processes, creating checklists, and automating workflows minimize the need for constant mental effort. Energy spent remembering, tracking, or coordinating minor tasks is energy lost. Systems allow critical thinking and focus to be reserved for decisions that truly require ingenuity. Delegation becomes more effective when clear protocols are in place, reducing the constant micromanagement that erodes both productivity and morale. Leaders create structures that channel energy toward impact rather than routine administration. Take control of physical health because energy is not purely mental. Sleep, nutrition, hydration, and movement influence stamina, alertness, and emotional stability. Chronic fatigue, poor diet, or inconsistent routines make it nearly impossible to maintain high-level performance. Small but consistent habits, such as a short walk in the morning, scheduled hydration, and regular breaks, sustain energy over long hours. Protecting energy involves treating the body as a core asset, not a disposable tool, because mental clarity is inseparable from physical well-being. Monitor emotional investment in tasks. Some projects or interpersonal dynamics drain more than they give. Recognize which people or responsibilities consistently consume disproportionate attention without positive return. Strategic emotional detachment does not mean indifference. It means directing effort toward relationships and initiatives that offer mutual benefit or align with long-term objectives. Evaluate interactions by asking, does this require deep emotional engagement, or is a simpler, neutral approach sufficient? Energy spent unnecessarily is energy lost for the work that counts. Integrate short recovery rituals into daily life. Moments of pause, breathing exercises, brief meditation, stretching, or even a 5-minute walk allow mental reset and prevent cumulative depletion. Energy is like a battery. It diminishes gradually and recovers with intentional care. Leaders recognize that productivity is not measured by constant action, but by sustained performance over time. Strategic breaks enhance creativity, problem-solving, and decision-making, preserving vitality for tasks that demand peak attention. Adopt a mindset of energy ROI, return on investment. Before committing to any activity, evaluate the potential return relative to the energy required. Some tasks may seem urgent, but deliver minimal value. Others may require significant effort, but yield transformative outcomes. Choosing where to invest energy is a constant calculation. Leaders habitually ask, will this move me closer to my objectives, strengthen key relationships, or enhance my capacity for future success? If the answer is no, energy is conserved. Create a hierarchy of tasks based on impact and complexity. Focus first on high-impact, high-complexity work, where energy expenditure produces the largest gains. Moderate or low-impact tasks follow, ideally structured for efficiency or delegation. Avoid overinvesting in low-stakes matters. When energy is aligned with strategic importance, output increases disproportionately. Leaders make intentional choices about where energy flows, understanding that not all effort carries equal weight. Recognize cumulative energy drain. Small distractions, repeated interruptions, and minor frustrations accumulate. Over time, they reduce capacity for high-value thinking. Implement safeguards, scheduled focus blocks, limiting meetings, structured check-ins, and clear communication channels. Leaders who consistently protect these blocks maintain superior decision-making ability and problem-solving capacity. Energy management is proactive, not reactive. Anticipating potential drains preserves performance. Finally, integrate reflection into energy management. At the end of each day, identify moments of unnecessary energy expenditure. What tasks, conversations, or obligations consume more attention than warranted? Determine alternative approaches for the future. This simple practice trains awareness, reinforces prioritization skills, and gradually builds a pattern of intentional energy allocation. Leaders refine their approach continually, making conscious choices about where to invest focus, attention, and emotional effort. Protecting energy is the cornerstone of leadership effectiveness. Focusing on every task equally leads to exhaustion, diminished judgment, and shallow impact. Prioritize activities that drive progress, nurture critical relationships, and demand creative or strategic engagement. Guard physical, mental, and emotional energy as precious currency, and spend it where it produces the highest return. By consciously deciding where attention goes, leaders maintain clarity, sustain performance, and cultivate the ability to create influence far beyond what sheer activity alone can achieve. Energy protected becomes leverage. Energy mismanaged becomes chaos. Every decision, every habit, and every boundary contributes to the preservation of the most critical resource you have, the ability to perform at your best consistently over the long term. Number 4. Ask better questions before deciding. Every decision carries weight. Some choices ripple across projects, relationships, and opportunities in ways that are not immediately visible. Leaders recognize that the quality of decisions is directly tied to the questions that guide them. A hasty choice often results from superficial inquiry, focusing on the first answer, assuming motives, or accepting surface-level explanations. Workers respond, leaders probe. Asking better questions sharpens clarity, uncovers hidden factors, and illuminates the path forward. The depth of inquiry shapes the wisdom of action. Begin by challenging assumptions. Most decisions are influenced by unstated beliefs about how the world works, the intentions of others, or the consequences of actions. Before moving forward, ask, what assumptions am I making? Are these assumptions verified? Could there be alternative explanations or scenarios? Identifying assumptions early prevents blind spots. This practice transforms vague confidence into informed certainty, revealing areas that require data, consultation, or further reflection. Leaders systematically interrogate their own thinking before seeking solutions. Next, embrace curiosity over certainty. Avoid framing questions in ways that confirm existing beliefs. Instead of asking, "Is this plan going to fail?" ask, "What factors could influence success or failure?" Open-ended inquiries encourage exploration and uncover insights that simple yes or no questions miss. Curiosity invites diverse perspectives, uncovers overlooked risks, and highlights opportunity. Leaders cultivate questions that expand vision rather than narrow it, shifting the mindset from reactive problem-solving to proactive strategy. Prioritize questions that reveal root causes, not symptoms. Surface issues are obvious, but they rarely explain why problems occur. Effective questions dig deeper. What led to this outcome? What systemic factors contributed? What patterns exist across similar situations? Focusing on root causes prevents repetitive cycles of correction that solve one instance but leave the underlying problem intact. Leaders learn to follow the chain of events and decisions backward, uncovering leverage points that drive sustainable improvement. Incorporate a forward-looking perspective. Questions should consider consequences beyond the immediate next step. What will happen if this choice is made? Who will be affected and how? What ripple effects could emerge over weeks, months, or years? Decisions are rarely isolated. They intersect with multiple systems and people. Leaders anticipate impact by asking questions that map consequences, creating foresight where others see only urgency. This approach reduces regrets and unanticipated setbacks, aligning action with long-term vision. Balance quantitative and qualitative inquiry. Data matters, but so does context. Numbers can mislead if disconnected from the human or environmental factors surrounding them. Ask both. What does the data indicate, and what does the experience or perspective of the people involved reveal? Integrating objective and subjective insights provides a comprehensive understanding. Leaders combine measurable outcomes with nuanced judgment, ensuring decisions are informed by both evidence and lived reality. Seek clarity on priorities. Every decision involves trade-offs. Better questions uncover the relative importance of outcomes. Which objective is most critical? Which risk is acceptable? And which is intolerable? Prioritization questions prevent energy and resources from being diluted across competing demands. They establish boundaries for acceptable outcomes and provide a framework for action. Leaders consistently evaluate which goals warrant maximum effort and which can be adjusted or deferred. Engage the right perspectives. Decisions benefit from input, but not all opinions carry equal weight. Ask, who has the knowledge or experience to provide insight? What voices have been overlooked? Leaders intentionally gather perspectives that challenge assumptions and add depth rather than confirm bias. Diverse viewpoints illuminate blind spots and prevent echo chambers, increasing the likelihood of well-rounded, effective solutions. Structured questions to others often reveal information that would otherwise remain hidden. Evaluate potential unintended consequences. Every action has side effects. Before finalizing a choice, Ask what might happen that I am not anticipating. Could this decision create problems in other areas? Predicting consequences allows preemptive measures, reducing negative impact. Leaders examine scenarios in which a well-intentioned action produces unexpected outcomes. Preparing for contingencies transforms risk into manageable probability, and it empowers decisions with foresight rather than guesswork. Reflect on historical patterns. Decisions often follow precedents, whether in your experience or observed in others. Ask, what similar situations have occurred before? What worked and what failed? And historical questioning provides context, reduces repetition of errors, and guides better judgment. Leaders treat experience as a resource, synthesizing lessons across projects and time frames. The questions are bridges between past knowledge and future action. Consider the personal and ethical dimension. Decisions impact not only tasks, but character, relationships, and reputation. Ask, does this align with core values? Am I acting with integrity? Will this decision strengthen trust or erode it? Leaders recognize that long-term influence depends on consistent alignment with principles. Questioning in this dimension prevents compromise of ethics or personal standards for short-term gain, ensuring that actions contribute to sustainable credibility and authority. Apply scenario analysis through questions. Present multiple possibilities and ask, if option A occurs, what are the consequences? If option B occurs, what are the risks? Which scenario aligns best with strategic goals? Structured questioning expands mental models, prepares for uncertainty, and strengthens adaptive capacity. Leaders plan with contingencies in mind, reducing reactive decision-making when conditions shift unexpectedly. Integrate reflection into the questioning process. After decisions, ask, what did I learn? Which questions were effective and which were overlooked? How can inquiry improve next time? Reflection transforms experience into insight, sharpening future judgment. Leaders continually refine their questioning skills, recognizing that the quality of prior inquiry predicts the quality of future decisions. Every choice becomes both a solution and a training ground for improved discernment. Prioritize simplicity and focus. Better questions are clear, concise, and targeted. Avoid overly complex or multi-layered queries that confuse rather than clarify. Precision in questioning reduces cognitive overload, surfaces the most relevant information, and speeds analysis. Leaders frame questions that focus on actionable intelligence rather than diffuse speculation, creating clarity from complexity. Finally, embrace a mindset that questions are tools, not obstacles. The goal is not to delay action indefinitely, but to illuminate the right path. Asking better questions accelerates effectiveness, enhances understanding, and minimizes mistakes. Each question is an investment in decision quality, shaping choices that are informed, deliberate, and aligned with long-term objectives. Asking better questions before deciding transforms the way a leader engages with the world. It replaces assumption with insight, impulsive reaction with strategic assessment, and uncertainty with informed confidence. By systematically interrogating assumptions, exploring consequences, seeking perspectives, and reflecting on outcomes, decisions become both smarter and more resilient. Leaders cultivate the habit of inquiry, understanding that the questions posed today determine the quality of action tomorrow. Strategic questioning is not hesitation. It is preparation, discipline, and clarity in motion, empowering every decision to move toward meaningful, lasting impact. Number 5. Build systems that replace effort. Effort is finite. No matter how disciplined, talented, or committed a person is, energy and attention have natural limits. Relying solely on personal exertion creates a ceiling, a bottleneck that slows progress as complexity and responsibilities grow. Leadership is not about how much one can push, but about how much one can multiply impact. Systems transform repeated effort into repeatable outcomes. They allow work to continue with consistency, precision, and minimal constant oversight. The goal is leverage, creating structures that operate independently of individual exertion, yet produce reliable results. Begin by identifying recurring tasks that consume disproportionate attention. These may include communication workflows, project approvals, report generation, scheduling, or client follow-ups. Observe patterns over weeks. Where does energy repeatedly drain without adding proportional value? The answer is where a system can be implemented. The most effective leaders turn repetitive effort into process, design, or automation, freeing mental space for strategic and high-impact work. Recognizing these opportunities is the first step toward building sustainable leverage. Once identified, map the sequence of actions. Document each step in the workflow as clearly as possible. Even tasks that seem simple or obvious can harbor hidden inefficiencies. Write down triggers, dependencies, decision points, and output. This mapping reveals redundancies and points where errors occur most often. Systems are strongest when built on clarity and repeatability, not on assumptions or memory. Leaders approach this with the mindset of an architect, understanding each element and how it interacts within the larger structure. Introduce automation and technology strategically. Not every system requires software, but modern tools can eliminate repetitive effort with precision. Automated reminders, report generation, scheduling platforms, and collaborative tools reduce manual intervention. Leaders assess technology not as a novelty, but as leverage. Any tool that reliably performs a step or decision without constant supervision becomes an asset. Integration is key. Systems must connect seamlessly so that one automated process feeds another, creating a chain of efficiency. Delegate effectively within the system. A system is more than processes. It is also people aligned with roles and responsibilities. Identify tasks that others can perform at equal or higher efficiency than yourself. Provide clear instructions, guidelines, and accountability measures. Delegation alone is not enough. The supporting system ensures that human effort is directed where it produces maximum impact, while minimizing repeated intervention. Leadership is multiplying capability through others, structured with clarity and supported by process. Incorporate feedback loops to ensure quality. Systems are only effective if they deliver consistent results. Build checkpoints, audits, or review stages that catch errors early without requiring constant supervision. Feedback loops create self-correcting mechanisms that maintain reliability. Leaders view mistakes not as failures of individuals, but as opportunities to refine the system, improving efficiency over time and preventing repeated effort from accumulating unnecessarily. Simplify wherever possible. Complexity in systems introduces friction, increasing the effort required to maintain them. Streamline processes to eliminate redundant steps, unnecessary approvals, or convoluted communication. The simpler a system, the easier it is to scale, replicate, and sustain. Complexity should be introduced only when absolutely necessary to achieve a critical outcome. Leaders favor elegance and functionality over elaborate procedures, understanding that simplicity produces resilience and speed. Standardize communication channels and expectations. Misalignment consumes energy and creates repeated work through clarification, corrections, and reminders. Define clear protocols, how updates are delivered, how decisions are escalated, and how information flows. Systems that replace effort must anticipate human behavior and prevent recurrent misunderstandings. Leaders proactively shape interactions to reduce friction, ensuring that communication itself operates as a structured system rather than a chaotic drain. Anticipate growth and evolution. Systems are not static. They must adapt as teams, objectives, or external conditions change. Build scalability into every process. Design frameworks that accommodate additional volume, complexity, or participants without requiring a proportional increase in personal effort. Leaders think in terms of elasticity. A system should expand capacity without linear increases in energy expenditure. This forward-looking approach prevents bottlenecks and ensures long-term sustainability. Integrate accountability into the system. Without mechanisms to track performance and outcomes, systems risk collapsing into chaos. Define metrics, assign responsibility, and set expectations. Automation, delegation, and documented processes are ineffective if there is no measurement of compliance or results. Leaders create transparent accountability structures so that energy does not have to be spent constantly supervising or repeating work. Monitoring becomes efficient, targeted, and minimally invasive. Build resilience through redundancy. No system is perfect, and failures will occur. Anticipate points of vulnerability and create backups, fail-safes, or alternative paths. Redundancy ensures continuity and prevents minor disruptions from demanding disproportionate effort to correct. Leaders view resilience not as extra work, but as energy insurance, a strategic buffer that preserves focus for high-value tasks. Preparing for potential breakdowns in advance reduces stress and protects sustained performance. Leverage documentation and templates. Repetition often comes from reinventing the wheel or constantly recalling details from memory. Create standard documents, templates, and guides for frequently executed actions. This allows anyone to follow a proven procedure without guesswork. Documentation serves as institutional knowledge, reducing dependence on individual effort and increasing predictability. Leaders understand that clarity and repeatability empower teams and preserve their own energy for innovation and oversight. Focus on outcome orientation rather than task orientation. Systems succeed when they are designed to produce results, not merely to complete steps. Define the desired outcome first, then structure processes to achieve it efficiently. This mindset avoids creating labor-intensive systems that maintain appearances without generating meaningful impact. Leaders direct energy to results rather than busyness, ensuring that every component of the system contributes directly to achieving objectives. Review and refine continuously. Systems are living constructs, evolving with experience, feedback, and changing conditions. Schedule regular evaluations to identify inefficiencies, bottlenecks, or outdated steps. Incremental improvements compound over time, reducing effort while increasing effectiveness. Leaders commit to continuous refinement because sustained performance is not achieved by static processes, but by adaptive structures that respond intelligently to reality. Integrate self-sufficiency into the system. Design processes so that they operate independently as much as possible, requiring minimal intervention once established. This includes clear instructions, automated triggers, decision trees, and accessible resources. The system should carry work forward reliably, even if the leader is unavailable for extended periods. Energy is preserved because oversight is minimized, and tasks continue seamlessly, maintaining progress toward goals. Encourage team ownership. Systems are most effective when participants understand, trust, and engage with them. Provide training, clarity, and incentives that encourage individuals to maintain and improve processes. When everyone acts as a steward of the system, effort is distributed and energy expenditure is optimized. Leaders cultivate an environment where structured autonomy thrives, freeing personal energy for high-impact leadership activities. Recognize the compounding effect. A well-built system magnifies output beyond what individual effort alone could achieve. Each automated process, clear guideline, and delegated responsibility creates leverage that accumulates exponentially over time. Leaders measure impact not in hours worked, but in outcomes generated relative to energy invested. Systems replace repetitive effort with scalable results, transforming small inputs into amplified achievement. Finally, build with intentionality. Every system should be designed with purpose, clarity, and alignment with long-term goals. Avoid adopting generic or ill-fitting processes. Tailor structures to specific challenges, team dynamics, and thoughtful systems amplify energy rather than drain it, creating an ecosystem where action flows effortlessly, mistakes are minimized, and results multiply. Leaders harness systems to extend influence, sustain performance, and achieve outcomes that individual effort alone could never reach. Building systems that replace effort is not about avoiding work. It is about redirecting energy toward leverage, creativity, and strategy. Tasks that once demanded constant attention can become self-sustaining engines, freeing focus for decisions, innovation, and leadership. Leaders invest in design, automation, delegation, feedback, and refinement. The result is exponential productivity, reduced fatigue, and consistent high-quality outcomes. Energy preserved becomes influence multiplied. Systems transform effort into results that persist long after immediate labor is complete, creating lasting impact with sustainable input. Number 6. See problems early, act early. The most costly mistakes are rarely the result of unforeseen disasters. They emerge quietly, slowly building until the situation becomes urgent. By the time the alarm sounds, energy is already depleted, options are limited, and stress is high. Leaders understand that vigilance is not about paranoia. It is about awareness, foresight, and responsiveness. Seeing problems early is a skill that transforms potential crises into manageable adjustments. Acting early turns minor issues into opportunities for correction, rather than letting them metastasize into unmanageable complications. The first step is active observation. Pay attention to patterns and anomalies in systems, behavior, and outcomes. Small deviations often signal larger underlying issues. A missed deadline, a sudden dip in performance, or a minor communication breakdown may seem insignificant at first. When noted and investigated early, these small signals provide actionable intelligence. Leaders cultivate a mindset of noticing, questioning, and recording irregularities before they escalate. Awareness precedes action. Without it, even the most capable decisions arrive too late. Develop early warning mechanisms. Systems, metrics, and indicators can be designed to alert leaders to emerging problems. These might include performance dashboards, automated notifications, or regular check-ins with key team members. The goal is to detect deviations from expected results while they are still small. A proactive approach allows for adjustment before the issue becomes critical. Leaders treat early warning signals as opportunities rather than annoyances, understanding that timely intervention prevents compounded damage. Create habits of frequent assessment. Weekly reviews, daily reflections, and systematic tracking of progress make it harder for issues to remain hidden. Consistency in observation reduces the chance that minor problems are overlooked. By integrating reflection into daily routines, leaders maintain situational awareness without adding excessive cognitive load. Habitual evaluation trains both mind and team to identify and surface challenges promptly, making early detection a cultural norm rather than an isolated effort. Encourage transparency and open communication. Problems often remain hidden because people fear consequences or assume someone else will act. Leaders foster an environment where issues can be reported honestly without fear of blame. Questions such as what obstacles are we encountering, or where might this project derail, create a space for early problem identification. Teams that feel psychologically safe contribute information that allows leaders to intervene before small issues escalate into crises. Assess root causes promptly. Early detection is only meaningful if the underlying source of the problem is addressed. Quick fixes that do not tackle the origin often result in repeated failures. When an irregularity is spotted, analyze why it occurred, whether it stems from a process flaw, resource limitation, knowledge gap, or human factor. Understanding root causes enables the design of solutions that prevent recurrence, rather than temporary mitigation. Leaders respond not just to symptoms, but to the mechanics that generate them. Act decisively once a problem is identified. Delay allows momentum to shift against progress. Even imperfect solutions implemented early often prevent worse outcomes than perfect solutions applied too late. Leaders recognize that timeliness is a form of leverage. Intervening while the window of opportunity is open ensures better control and less resistance. Swift action builds confidence, reinforces trust, and demonstrates competence, reducing anxiety among teams and stakeholders. Prioritize issues by potential impact. Not every problem carries equal weight, and early detection does not imply equal urgency. Evaluate the likely consequences, affected parties, and long-term implications to determine which situations demand immediate attention. Allocate resources and attention proportionally, addressing high-impact concerns first, while monitoring lower-priority issues. Leaders conserve energy and focus, ensuring that critical interventions are not diluted by minor distractions. Foster anticipation skills. Leaders cultivate the habit of mentally simulating possible challenges before they occur. Ask, what could go wrong? What has caused issues in the past? What external factors could influence outcomes? Scenario planning prepares the mind to recognize emerging problems quickly. Anticipation reduces the surprise factor, allowing for faster, more strategic response. Acting from foresight is less reactive and more controlled, turning uncertainty into informed preparation. Leverage incremental progress checks. Large projects or initiatives often hide problems because outcomes are observed only at milestones. Break work into smaller components with frequent evaluations. Each checkpoint provides an opportunity to catch deviations early, correct course, and maintain alignment with objectives. Leaders build small, manageable inspection points that prevent minor discrepancies from accumulating unnoticed and turning into systemic failures. Train the team in early problem recognition. Equip others with skills to spot and report issues proactively. Encourage critical observation, systematic note-taking, and prompt communication. Collective vigilance amplifies the leader's awareness and creates a distributed early warning network. When multiple eyes are engaged in detecting deviations, problems are identified sooner and acted upon faster. Leadership extends beyond personal oversight into creating a culture of collective responsibility for detecting emerging issues. Balance analysis with prompt intervention. Overanalyzing early signs can lead to hesitation and inaction. Leaders practice a measured approach, gather enough information to understand the problem's scope, but do not wait for perfect clarity. Early intervention does not require certainty. It requires sufficient insight to guide corrective measures. Acting before the problem compounds often produces better outcomes than waiting for absolute knowledge. Document emerging issues and actions. Maintaining records allows patterns to emerge over time, revealing recurring problems that may require systemic solutions. Documentation ensures lessons are retained and future decisions are informed. Leaders who track both incidents and responses develop a playbook for anticipating and addressing challenges more efficiently in the future. Patterns identified through careful record-keeping transform experience into actionable insight. Consider cascading effects. Problems rarely remain isolated. Evaluate how an issue might influence related processes, people, and projects. Early detection enables leaders to contain and address secondary effects before they escalate. Thinking in terms of networks and dependencies ensures that intervention is strategic, comprehensive, and minimizes collateral impact. Leaders maintain a broad perspective to prevent localized issues from causing widespread disruption. Integrate preventive measures into processes. Once problems are identified and addressed early, design systems to reduce recurrence. This may include updated procedures, risk assessments, training modules, or automated alerts. Prevention reduces the energy and attention required to manage repeated issues and frees capacity for innovation and growth. Leaders convert experience into durable improvements, reducing future friction and amplifying efficiency. Reflect after intervention to refine detection. After acting on a problem, review what early signs were present and how they were interpreted. Could the issue have been noticed sooner? Was the response effective? Continuous reflection hones both observational and decision-making skills, improving the speed and precision of future early detection and action. Leaders approach problem-solving as iterative, learning from each cycle to sharpen capability. Emphasize consistency over intensity. Vigilance is sustainable only when embedded in daily habits. Sporadic attention or reactive focus is insufficient for catching early signs. Integrate monitoring, assessment, and reflection into routine practices to make awareness a steady, reliable component of leadership. This ensures that issues are surfaced naturally and handled promptly, rather than accumulating into crises that demand extraordinary effort. Visualize the benefits of early action. Seeing problems promptly and intervening immediately prevents stress, preserves resources, strengthens trust, and maintains momentum. It allows control over outcomes rather than surrendering influence to escalating circumstances. Leaders internalize this advantage, understanding that foresight and timely intervention multiply impact far beyond the energy invested. Seeing problems early and acting early transforms challenges into manageable opportunities. Leaders train attention, structure processes, and cultivate habits that detect irregularities before they escalate. Early intervention reduces risk, conserves resources, and maintains continuity of progress. It is a discipline of observation, judgment, and decisive action that protects momentum, sustains morale, and enables consistent achievement. By anticipating, recognizing, and addressing issues at their inception, leadership transcends reaction and becomes strategic mastery, turning potential crises into predictable, controllable, and solvable elements of growth and success. Number 7. Focus on people, not tasks. Tasks can be completed, checklists can be marked, and projects can move forward, but none of that produces lasting results if the human element is neglected. Leadership is not the management of to-do lists. It is the cultivation of capability, trust, and engagement in those you lead. People are the multiplier behind every initiative, the source of creativity, resilience, and execution. Focusing on tasks alone is a trap. Efficiency may rise temporarily, but the organization stagnates without committed, skilled, and motivated individuals driving progress. Leaders understand that investment in people yields returns far beyond what task management alone can achieve. Start by understanding individuals, not just their roles. Each person brings unique skills, motivations, and perspectives. Observing strengths and weaknesses allows alignment of responsibilities with natural aptitude, increasing efficiency and satisfaction. Rather than assigning tasks mechanically, consider how each person can grow while contributing meaningfully. Leaders focus on capability development and potential, rather than only immediate completion, recognizing that empowered individuals create sustainable performance and innovation. Communicate with clarity and purpose, not merely to assign work. People respond to direction that is meaningful, contextualized, and inspiring. Explaining the why behind decisions, tasks, and objectives fosters engagement. Individuals perform better when they see their role as part of a larger goal rather than a list of disconnected duties. Leaders articulate vision in ways that connect the task to personal contribution, impact, and shared success, creating commitment beyond obligation. Provide guidance and feedback consistently. People develop through interaction and reflection, not through passive observation or mechanical instruction. Constructive feedback highlights areas for growth, reinforces positive behavior, and builds confidence. Recognition of effort is equally important. Celebrating progress and achievements motivates continued contribution. Leaders approach feedback as a tool to elevate, not merely correct, ensuring energy is invested in development rather than superficial completion. Prioritize relationship building over mere output. Strong interpersonal connections create trust, loyalty, and collaboration. Teams with positive relational dynamics communicate effectively, anticipate needs, and support one another during challenges. Investing in rapport may seem intangible, but it amplifies productivity, reduces conflict, and fosters resilience under pressure. Leaders intentionally allocate time and attention to understanding colleagues, nurturing trust, and modeling respect and empathy. Develop empathy as a core leadership skill. Understanding experiences, challenges, and perspectives allows leaders to address needs before they escalate into problems. Empathy also informs decisions about workload distribution, professional growth opportunities, and conflict resolution. Individuals who feel seen and understood are more likely to engage fully, take initiative, and remain committed. Leaders treat empathy as a strategic tool that ensures energy is directed toward human potential rather than reactive firefighting. Empower autonomy within structure. People perform best when they understand boundaries but have freedom to determine execution. Micromanaging tasks limits creativity, stifles ownership, and wastes energy on oversight. Leaders create frameworks that provide clarity and accountability while allowing individuals to contribute their judgments, skills, and creativity. Autonomy fosters responsibility, engagement, and innovative solutions, which cannot be achieved through task-centric oversight alone. Encourage collaboration over isolated effort. Tasks may be completed individually, but complex challenges require coordination, dialogue, and shared problem-solving. Leaders create environments where knowledge, experience, and skills flow freely. Facilitate team discussions, workshops, and joint decision-making sessions that emphasize collective intelligence rather than individual task completion. Collaboration magnifies results, builds cohesion, and accelerates learning, turning people into interdependent systems rather than isolated cogs. Observe energy and engagement signals continuously. Attention to fatigue, frustration, motivation, and morale provides critical insight into potential obstacles before they manifest. Leaders who notice subtle changes in behavior can intervene early, adjusting workload, providing support, or addressing concerns proactively. Preserving human energy and enthusiasm is more impactful than merely ensuring tasks are completed. Engagement sustains performance over the long term. Align development opportunities with individual goals. People flourish when tasks intersect with personal growth. Leaders identify skills to nurture, provide mentorship, and offer challenges that stretch capability. Professional development should not be an afterthought. It is an integral part of leadership. By investing in growth aligned with aspirations, leaders retain talent, enhance performance, and create a culture of continuous improvement that transcends the immediate task list. Establish trust through consistency and integrity. People respond to leaders who demonstrate reliability, fairness, and ethical standards. Trust reduces friction, encourages initiative, and creates an environment where individuals take ownership without fear of arbitrary consequences. Leaders recognize that trust is foundational. Without it, energy is wasted on vigilance, defensiveness, and disengagement rather than productive contribution. Anticipate human needs and barriers. Successful leadership involves more than task assignment. It requires proactive consideration of obstacles that may impede performance. This could include providing resources, clarifying instructions, addressing skill gaps, or managing interpersonal conflicts. Leaders who foresee challenges and address them before they disrupt progress save time, energy, and frustration, creating smoother workflows without constant intervention. Model the behavior and values you expect. Leadership is communicated through action as much as instruction. Demonstrating professionalism, accountability, resilience, and respect sets a standard for the team. People internalize and replicate behavior more readily than directives. Leaders embody the principles they want to see, ensuring that the human element absorbs lessons through observation and culture, rather than mere enforcement of tasks. Integrate regular check-ins that emphasize well-being and engagement. Meetings focused solely on progress are transactional, incorporating inquiry about workload, challenges, and satisfaction fosters connection. Leaders gather intelligence about morale and identify support needs, while reinforcing the notion that people matter more than assignments. Consistent attention to engagement nurtures loyalty, reduces burnout, and sustains performance. Recognize the long-term impact of interpersonal investment. The energy devoted to developing, supporting, and understanding individuals compounds over time. Strong relationships, enhanced capability, and trust create a team that performs reliably even under stress. Leaders focus on this multiplier effect, rather than short-term task output, knowing that tasks alone do not produce enduring results. The human infrastructure sustains organizational growth far longer than any checklist. Encourage problem-solving and ownership. Instead of dictating every step, guide individuals to analyze challenges, propose solutions, and implement improvements. This approach cultivates capability and confidence. Leaders who focus on people create decision-making capacity across the team, reducing reliance on their own direct intervention. Empowered individuals not only complete tasks, but also improve processes, innovate, and contribute strategically. Balance accountability with support. Holding people responsible for results is necessary, but it must be coupled with guidance and resources to succeed. Leaders understand that accountability is effective only when the person has clarity, tools, and encouragement to perform. Focusing on people means ensuring that each individual has the foundation to achieve, rather than imposing pressure detached from capability. Foster a culture of learning. Mistakes are inevitable, but they provide opportunities when approached constructively. Leaders emphasize reflection, growth, and solutions rather than punishment. Individuals who perceive leadership as invested in their development take risks, learn, and improve more rapidly. A culture of learning strengthens the organization's collective intelligence, making future tasks easier and performance more resilient. Finally, recognize that people, not tasks, create sustainable results. Tasks are temporary. Skills, relationships, trust, and engagement endure. Leaders prioritize time, attention, and energy on building capability, understanding motivation, and creating an environment where individuals thrive. When people are developed, empowered, and valued, tasks are completed efficiently, innovation flourishes, and the organization becomes resilient to challenge. Focusing on people amplifies impact far beyond the immediate work, creating a foundation for long-term success and influence that no task-oriented approach can replicate. Number 8, create direction, then remove friction. Direction is the foundation of leadership. Without it, effort scatters, energy dissipates, and even the most capable individuals struggle to achieve meaningful results. Clarity about purpose, priorities, and expected outcomes is not a luxury. It is the framework through which momentum builds. Leaders understand that once direction is established, removing friction becomes the multiplier that transforms intention into consistent, high-quality execution. It is not enough to tell people what to do. They must understand why it matters, where it leads, and how obstacles can be cleared to make progress effortless. Begin by defining outcomes with precision. Vague instructions lead to confusion, wasted time, and half-realized efforts. Direction requires specificity, measurable objectives, clear standards, and tangible milestones. When individuals know exactly what success looks like, they can align their actions and make autonomous decisions that advance the overall goal. Leaders craft communication that leaves no ambiguity about priorities and expectations, creating a shared vision that guides decision-making at every level. Communicate the why behind the direction. Understanding purpose motivates effort more deeply than instructions alone. When people see how their work connects to broader goals or impacts others, engagement rises naturally. Leaders articulate context and rationale, helping teams see beyond immediate tasks. This alignment ensures that energy is channeled effectively and that actions are not mechanical but intentional, reinforcing commitment to outcomes. Identify points of friction early. Every process has barriers, confusing workflows, unnecessary approvals, misaligned tools, or inefficient communication channels. These points consume energy and delay progress. Leaders actively seek these obstacles, asking where do delays occur, which decisions require excessive effort, what recurring issues impede momentum. Pinpointing friction is the first step in transforming effort-heavy tasks into smooth, reliable process. Eliminate unnecessary steps. Many workflows include outdated, redundant, or low-value activities that add complexity without enhancing results. Streamlining operations reduces cognitive load and conserves energy, allowing focus on tasks that truly advance goals. Leaders examine processes critically, asking whether each step contributes meaningfully or simply exists out of habit. Simplifying work pathways accelerates progress while maintaining quality. Provide tools, resources, and support that make execution easier. Direction without enablement is frustration in disguise. Leaders ensure that teams have access to training, software, templates, and guidance that allow them to perform effectively with minimal resistance. Removing friction is as much about provision as it is about elimination. Equipping people to succeed reduces bottlenecks, errors, and wasted effort while reinforcing accountability and confidence. Clarify decision-making authority. Uncertainty about who decides what slows action and creates unnecessary dependencies. Leaders define boundaries and empower individuals to act within their domain, reducing the need for constant approvals. When authority is clear, progress is faster, and energy is preserved for complex or high-impact decisions rather than administrative delays. Direction coupled with empowered autonomy multiplies productivity and engagement. Create transparent processes. Confusion often stems from opaque procedures and unclear expectations. Leaders implement systems that make information accessible, workflows visible, and responsibilities explicit. Transparency reduces guesswork, prevents mistakes, and allows people to navigate challenges independently. Clear pathways also facilitate early detection of potential problems, enabling timely intervention before small issues escalate into systemic failures. Align incentives and recognition with outcomes. Friction often arises when effort does not correspond to reward or recognition. Leaders ensure that contributions are acknowledged and aligned with desired results. People naturally invest more energy when they perceive that their actions matter and are valued. Incentive structures, feedback mechanisms, and recognition practices all function to remove subtle resistance and encourage proactive effort toward the defined direction. Foster feedback loops that continuously improve flow. Direction and friction removal are ongoing processes. Leaders solicit input on obstacles, inefficiencies, and potential improvements, adjusting systems dynamically. By listening to those executing tasks, they identify bottlenecks that might be invisible from a higher vantage point. Regular iteration ensures that processes remain smooth, relevant, and aligned with changing conditions, reducing friction over time while sustaining momentum. Encourage proactive problem solving. Empower individuals to identify and remove friction themselves within the framework of direction. Leaders cultivate an environment where initiative is valued and minor impediments are addressed without waiting for top-down instructions. This decentralization of problem-solving accelerates execution, reduces dependency on leadership for every correction, and fosters ownership of outcomes across the team. Monitor energy expenditure. Tasks that are unnecessarily complicated or effort-intensive drain focus and enthusiasm. Leaders observe where effort is concentrated and whether it yields proportional value. If energy is being wasted on friction rather than meaningful progress, intervention is required. Streamlining, automation, or redesign of these high-effort tasks prevents burnout and sustains performance, ensuring that focus remains on advancing the direction effectively. Anticipate resistance and barriers in advance. Removing friction is more effective when done proactively rather than reactively. Leaders evaluate processes, stakeholder dynamics, and resource constraints before obstacles arise, designing solutions that mitigate potential disruptions. By foreseeing and addressing challenges in advance, momentum remains uninterrupted, and small issues do not accumulate into major bottlenecks. Balance flexibility with structure. Too much rigidity creates friction, while too much freedom creates confusion. Leaders provide clear frameworks with defined goals, while allowing adaptability in methods of execution. This balance enables individuals to respond creatively to challenges without deviating from direction. Friction is minimized because people understand both boundaries and latitude, reducing hesitation, delays, and inefficiency. Develop routines and habits that reinforce direction. Repeated patterns aligned with objectives reduce cognitive load and prevent drift. Standardizing effective practices allows teams to operate efficiently, leaving mental energy for innovation and problem solving rather than repeated decision-making about minor matters. Leaders embed routines that reinforce clarity while reducing resistance, creating a self-sustaining flow toward outcomes. Integrate cross-function alignment. Friction often emerges when different teams or departments operate in isolation with conflicting priorities. Leaders ensure that direction is shared and understood across all relevant areas. Alignment prevents duplicated work, miscommunication, and competing agendas, ensuring that energy is focused on advancing the goal cohesively rather than resolving internal conflicts. Measure outcomes, not activity. Removing friction is validated through results. Leaders track whether tasks are moving efficiently toward objectives rather than simply checking off actions. Feedback on performance highlights remaining bottlenecks and opportunities for refinement. Measurement ensures that systems, processes, and guidance are effective, turning observation into actionable insights that preserve energy and reinforce direction. Foster a culture of continuous improvement. Direction and friction removal are not one-time initiatives. Leaders encourage teams to suggest enhancements, experiment with alternatives, and iterate processes. Continuous refinement ensures that progress accelerates over time and that energy is consistently channeled into productive, value-driven work. Small improvements compound into significant gains, creating an environment where barriers are constantly reduced and momentum is sustained. Model focus and decisiveness. Leaders demonstrate the value of following direction while actively identifying and eliminating obstacles. Observing this behavior reinforces priorities and expectations, encouraging the team to mirror the approach. Modeling attention to both clarity and friction management establishes a standard that guides behavior without requiring constant oversight. Finally, recognize that direction and friction removal are mutually reinforcing. Clear purpose motivates engagement and informs prioritization, while friction-free processes maximize the impact of that engagement. Leaders who excel at both create an environment where effort flows efficiently, energy is conserved, and outcomes are achieved consistently. By providing guidance, anticipating obstacles, and removing unnecessary resistance, leadership transforms intention into action, creating a seamless path toward meaningful, sustainable results. Success becomes not just a product of effort, but a function of clarity, efficiency, and strategic momentum. Number 9. Use data, not assumptions daily. Decisions made without evidence are guesses dressed as strategy. Assumptions can be convenient, but convenience often leads to costly mistakes. Leadership grounded in insight relies on concrete information, patterns, and trends. Using data daily is not about rigidly following spreadsheets or charts. It is about creating a consistent habit of verifying reality before acting. Leaders understand that even small assumptions left unchecked compound into errors, misaligned priorities, and lost opportunities. Data replaces uncertainty with clarity, speculation with direction, and reaction with informed action. Start by observing metrics that directly reflect outcomes. Leaders identify indicators that matter, not those that are easy to track. These metrics can be quantitative, such as sales figures, production rates or response times, or qualitative, such as customer satisfaction, engagement levels, or team morale. The key is relevance. Focus on measures that actually inform the decisions that drive results. Regularly reviewing these signals ensures that action is anchored in reality rather than anecdote or guesswork. Challenge every assumption before acting. Even intuitive judgments must be scrutinized. Questions like, "What evidence supports this belief?" or "Have I seen this pattern consistently?" help distinguish perception from fact. Leaders cultivate a skeptical mindset toward their own thinking, acknowledging that confidence does not equal correctness. By systematically interrogating assumptions, leaders minimize the risk of bias influencing critical decisions. Collect information proactively, not reactively. Waiting for problems to appear before seeking data is too late. The opportunity to act may have passed. Establish routines to gather key information continuously, whether through dashboards, reports, direct observation, or conversations. Proactive monitoring allows early detection of deviations and trends. Leaders prioritize gathering information as part of their daily workflow, understanding that timely insight creates leverage and prevents costly surprises. Integrate multiple sources to validate conclusions. Data is not infallible, and individual metrics may be misleading in isolation. Leaders cross-reference different data points, comparing performance, historical patterns, and external factors to verify accuracy. Triangulation of information increases confidence in decisions and reduces reliance on assumptions. The habit of consulting diverse inputs ensures a more complete picture and mitigates blind spots. Document findings and trends. Keeping a structured record of data, observations, and patterns provides a reference for both current and future decisions. Leaders who maintain detailed records can track progress, identify persistent problems, and measure the impact of interventions. Documentation transforms information into institutional knowledge, allowing teams to learn from experience, rather than repeatedly relying on hunches. Translate data into actionable insights. Numbers and observations are only valuable when they inform decisions. Leaders analyze trends, test hypotheses, and identify cause-effect relationships. The goal is to convert raw information into strategies that guide action. This practice turns observation into advantage, preventing mistakes that arise from misinterpretation or neglect of evidence. Use data to challenge conventional wisdom. Assumptions often persist because of tradition, hierarchy, or repetition. Daily reliance on evidence allows leaders to test long-held beliefs and question established norms. If data contradicts expectations, the decision must shift to reflect reality. Leaders are comfortable with the discomfort that comes from overturning assumptions, understanding that evidence is more reliable than familiarity or habit. Communicate insights clearly. Data-driven leadership is not just personal, it guides teams and stakeholders. Present information in a way that is digestible and actionable, emphasizing what the numbers reveal and how they should influence decisions. Clear communication ensures alignment, reduces misunderstandings, and reinforces a culture where evidence, rather than opinion, drives action. Make real-time adjustments based on observations. Data is most powerful when it informs immediate behavior. Leaders monitor performance continuously and respond dynamically. If trends indicate a deviation from expected outcomes, interventions are applied promptly. Adjusting in real time prevents minor issues from escalating and ensures that progress remains aligned with objectives. This responsiveness replaces reactionary effort with strategic precision. Measure outcomes of decisions consistently. After taking action, evaluate results objectively against the data. Did the intervention achieve the intended effect? Were there unintended consequences? Leaders use these results to refine both understanding and future action. Continuous measurement creates a feedback loop where each decision informs the next, reducing reliance on guesswork over time. Embed data into culture. Leaders influence teams by normalizing evidence-based thinking. Encourage staff to track metrics, report findings, and question assumptions. Create systems where decisions are justified by data rather than hierarchy or tradition. This cultural shift multiplies the leader's influence, ensuring that accuracy and insight permeate every level of the organization. Prioritize actionable data over excess information. The abundance of data can be paralyzing if not focused on what matters. Leaders distinguish between signal and noise, concentrating attention on information that directly impacts decision-making. Avoid analysis for analysis' sake. The purpose of data is to guide action efficiently. Clarity and prioritization prevents wasted energy and supports timely intervention. Anticipate potential pitfalls using historical data. Patterns from past successes and failures provide insight into likely outcomes of current choices. Leaders use historical analysis to predict challenges, allocate resources effectively, and mitigate risks before they manifest. Learning from history validated through numbers and patterns turns experience into predictive power rather than assumption. Foster humility through evidence. Data challenges ego. Leaders are reminded daily that perception does not equate to truth. By regularly confronting assumptions with facts, they develop intellectual discipline, objectivity, and resilience. This humility strengthens decision-making, reduces errors, and cultivates credibility among teams who observe consistent reliance on evidence. Integrate data into strategic planning. Long-term initiatives are vulnerable to assumptions about trends, resources, and external conditions. Using verified information to shape forecasts, allocate resources, and prioritize objectives reduces risk and increases confidence. Leaders ensure that every step in planning is guided by measurable realities, rather than wishful thinking or instinct alone. Encourage curiosity alongside measurement. Leaders should question why the data reflects certain trends, seeking underlying causes. Observation becomes investigation, uncovering root issues that numbers alone may hint at, but not explain fully. This mindset prevents superficial conclusions and ensures that action addresses the true drivers of outcomes rather than symptoms. Leverage visualizations to enhance comprehension. Data is only as useful as it can be interpreted quickly and accurately. Charts, graphs, and dashboards translate raw numbers into patterns that are immediately actionable. Leaders use visualization to accelerate understanding, improve communication, and support evidence-based decisions across teams, reducing reliance on anecdotal information. Finally, make data usage habitual. Relying on information daily builds instinctive habits that override assumptions. Each decision becomes informed, each assessment objective, and each plan grounded in reality. Leaders who consistently prioritize evidence develop resilience against bias, reduce error, and create a culture where clarity and accuracy are the norm. Daily engagement with data transforms leadership from reactive guessing into disciplined foresight, producing results that are both reliable and strategically aligned with actual conditions. Using data, not assumptions, ensures that every action is deliberate, every outcome measurable, and every opportunity maximized. Number 10. Think consequences, not quick comfort. Life is full of choices that offer immediate ease, but carry hidden costs. Opting for convenience, shortcuts, or temporary relief can feel satisfying in the moment, but these decisions often create ripple effects that hinder growth, diminish results, and compromise long-term goals. Leadership requires the discipline to prioritize consequences over comfort, to weigh potential outcomes before yielding to impulse, and to accept temporary discomfort for lasting achievement. Thinking in terms of consequences shifts focus from instant gratification to strategic impact, from reactive decision-making to intentional action. Begin by pausing before acting. Immediate reactions are rarely guided by careful analysis. They are driven by habit, desire, or avoidance of discomfort. Leaders cultivate the practice of deliberate pause, even for a few seconds, to consider what their choices will produce over time. This habit interrupts automatic behavior and allows reflection on long-term implications. It is in these moments that decisions can be aligned with purpose, rather than convenience. Visualize outcomes clearly. Before taking action, map the possible results, both positive and negative, of each option. Consider short-term comfort against the trajectory of progress, relationships, finances, and personal growth. Leaders anticipate not only the immediate effect, but the cascading impact over days, months, or years. Visualization creates mental rehearsal for potential consequences, making the cost of comfort tangible and the value of discipline visible. Prioritize long-term goals over transient ease. Each decision is a test of alignment with vision and priorities. Leaders evaluate options through the lens of objectives, asking, does this move me forward or hold me back? Choosing consequence-oriented paths often requires enduring discomfort, resisting popular opinion, or performing tasks that feel tedious or challenging. The ability to delay gratification consistently compounds into strategic advantage, creating momentum toward meaningful outcomes. Develop the habit of asking consequence-focused questions. Instead of asking, will this feel good now? Shift to what will this lead to tomorrow, next month, or next year? This reframing shifts attention from short-term satisfaction to long-term impact. Leaders train themselves to assess trade-offs consciously, weighing risks, benefits, and downstream effects before committing energy or resources. Questioning in this manner cultivates foresight, self-control, and clarity. Recognize hidden costs. Comfort often carries unseen consequences, from lost credibility to missed opportunities, diminished skill development, or strained relationships. Leaders develop sensitivity to these subtle effects, understanding that what feels easy may erode capacity over time. Awareness of hidden costs transforms decision-making, revealing the true price of every choice and encouraging alignment with values and goals rather than convenience. Accept discomfort as an essential ingredient of growth. Temporary challenges, difficult conversations, and high-effort actions are rarely enjoyable, yet they are often the gateway to progress. Leaders embrace discomfort as a signal of meaningful effort rather than a deterrent. By reframing pain and inconvenience as tools for development, individuals can consistently choose actions that maximize impact rather than short-term relief. Establish clear principles to guide choices. When values and priorities are explicit, decisions become easier to align with consequences rather than comfort. Principles act as a filter through which all opportunities, shortcuts, or temptations are evaluated. Leaders rely on a framework of ethics, strategy, and long-term vision to make consistent, consequence-focused decisions, reducing reliance on fleeting emotion or impulse. Break down long-term rewards into tangible incentives. The abstract nature of future consequences often makes comfort more appealing in the moment. Leaders translate future outcomes into concrete milestones, visible results, or measurable benefits. Seeing the payoff in a practical, relatable way strengthens motivation and bridges the gap between present discomfort and eventual reward, making consequence-based choices feel attainable rather than distant. Analyze past decisions for learning. Reflecting on previous choices provides insight into the cost of prioritizing comfort over consequence. Identify where immediate ease led to setbacks or where disciplined decisions produced growth and advantage. Leaders use this analysis to sharpen judgment, internalize lessons, and strengthen the mental association between disciplined action and favorable long-term outcomes. Develop resilience to social and internal pressures. Comfort often comes from avoiding conflict, criticism, or challenge. Leaders recognize that choosing consequences may provoke discomfort, resistance, or disapproval. Maintaining focus on impact rather than momentary ease requires emotional fortitude, the ability to withstand criticism, and the discipline to act according to principle rather than opinion. Resilience strengthens alignment with meaningful objectives even under stress. Plan for decision fatigue. Frequent choices can erode willpower, making comfort more tempting. Leaders design routines, systems, and habits that simplify recurring decisions, preserving cognitive energy for critical moments where consequence-based thinking is essential. This strategic energy management ensures that attention and discipline are applied where they yield the greatest long-term benefit. Anticipate trade-offs explicitly. Every action has opportunity costs, and comfort often conceals them. Leaders evaluate what is sacrificed when opting for ease and what is gained when enduring difficulty. Trade-off awareness transforms reactive behavior into deliberate decision-making. Understanding that comfort is rarely free encourages prioritization of actions that maximize positive consequences. Cultivate self-awareness to identify triggers of comfort-seeking. Emotional fatigue, stress, or insecurity often push individuals toward easy options. Leaders recognize these triggers and develop strategies to counteract them, such as mindfulness, accountability partners, or structured routines. Self-awareness allows conscious intervention before comfort undermines goals, ensuring that choices remain aligned with consequence-focused thinking. Encourage accountability structures. Decisions weighted toward long-term outcomes are reinforced when others share responsibility or oversight. Mentors, peers, or teams provide perspective, challenge shortcuts, and support disciplined action. Leaders integrate accountability as a protective mechanism, making it easier to choose consequence over convenience consistently. Embed reflection into decision cycles. Regularly reviewing outcomes strengthens the association between choices and consequences. Leaders reflect on whether actions prioritized immediate comfort or strategic impact, learning to refine judgment continually. This reflective practice accelerates mastery over impulses and enhances clarity in future choices. Model consequence-oriented thinking. Leaders demonstrate the value of long-term focus through their own behavior. Observing deliberate decisions, disciplined effort, and prioritization of outcomes over ease teaches others implicitly. Actions resonate more than instruction, reinforcing the principle that success is achieved through foresight and consistent alignment with meaningful objectives. Leverage incremental discomfort strategically. Not all discomfort is detrimental, some is intentionally cultivated to accelerate growth and achievement. Leaders structure challenges, experiments, and high-effort tasks to expose teams and themselves to situations where short-term difficulty yields long-term advantage. Strategic discomfort develops capability, confidence, and resilience, while reinforcing the habit of consequence-focused thinking. Balance calculated risk with discipline. Pursuing outcomes often involves uncertainty and effort. Leaders assess potential consequences thoroughly, embracing calculated risk while avoiding impulsive comfort-seeking decisions. Risk management ensures that discomfort is productive, leading to growth and results, rather than wasted effort or unnecessary exposure. Finally, internalize the mindset that consequences shape the future, not comfort. Leadership is measured by the outcomes achieved and the sustainability of progress, not by momentary satisfaction. Every choice represents a fork between temporary relief and long-term benefit. Thinking in terms of consequences cultivates foresight, patience, and discipline, transforming decision-making into a strategic tool rather than an emotional response. Prioritizing results, impact, and enduring success over ease ensures that energy, effort, and resources are invested where they matter most. Choosing the path of consequences may be uncomfortable in the present, but it secures achievement, resilience, and influence that endure far beyond fleeting comfort.